I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. He is a U.S. Army veteran, life coach, and keynote speaker, and his name is Derick Johnson. He's coached over 500 individuals, partnered with more than 50 organizations, and is the best-selling author of Mission Ready: Prepare Your Body and Mind for the Battlefield of Life. Derick helps people break old patterns, build resilience, and step into unshakable confidence. He'll take you from just surviving to thriving and get your mission ready. Please welcome Derick Johnson. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to hear your story today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Noah.
So, feel free to introduce yourself and just kind of tell me a little bit more about yourself, what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Derick Johnson. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was in the Army for about 10 years. Before that, I was an athlete and a personal trainer. And my experience as a athlete and also my experiences as a soldier just inspired me to get deeper into helping people on a personal and mental level. So growing up, I had a crazy childhood. If your listeners can relate to having alcoholic parents or drug addicts in the family and being the quiet kid, being the one that had the physical abuse, verbal, emotional, spiritual, etc., and just being the quiet one that then was able to connect with people. Because I truly feel that what we didn't get from family or childhood, we tend to give others. So by not being the kid that was listened to and nobody really cared to talk to me, I am very present with people. And I noticed that that was the gift from that time period. So yeah, so my upbringing of a wild home life to being bullied in school to getting into sports and military always inspired me to turn around and help other people with their personal or professional goals. So it's always been fulfilling seeing people come out of their shell and just own who they are, no matter what their background was or is.
And your thing that you had mentioned that you had joined the Army as a U.S. Army veteran, which thank you so much for your service and thank you for everything that you did. I always love respecting. I have such a huge respect for veterans because of how I can imagine what every veteran goes through. Tell me a little bit about what your role was in the Army and what you did.
Yeah, for sure. So my main job was 25 Quebec. That is the MOS in the US Army. It's basically satellite communications. So I've always been a tech nerd. I've loved apps, computers, programs, and so forth. So my team and I, our job would be to set up the satellite and then give everybody internet and radio, basically commo communications. And then the rest of the time, we would just be ready and on guard to change locations if we needed to. And so in the Army, you have two positions. You have your main career, and then you can have other things that you do. So the other thing that I did was I was a master fitness trainer. So I would help soldiers get mission ready, basically prepare them for schools, if they were exiting out of the military, if they're going to go on deployment. And then on the flip side would be on a personal level. Let's say somebody came back from deployment, or they had a divorce, a breakup, or they were going through something in their personal life and it led to binge drinking or emotional eating. I would help them on a personal and professional level. So that way they were always ready for their career and were better off in their personal life. So I would be working on satellites, working with my team, but my favorite part was working one-on-one with soldiers, just closed door policy, and I would just guide them through whatever they were going through.
Was the army something that you had always wanted to do growing up, or did it kind of fall into your lap last minute?
Great question. So it definitely was something I always wanted to do because my father was army. So as a child, I grew up in Germany. My mother's German and my father's African American. And he's a farm boy, so he always had that work ethic.
Mm.
And my mother, she's a city girl out of Nuremberg, Deutschland, Nuremberg, Germany. And so they met in a discotheque or in a club in Germany. They were both fun story. They were both dancers, like actually battle dancing. And so my dad saw my mom on the dance floor and like they fell in love. So back then you could find your person in the club. Nowadays it's a little sketch. But
Yeah.
in general, my dad, he came from a farm in Mississippi and then got into the army at about 17 years old because back then you could enlist at 17. And years later, he was stationed in Germany. He met my mother, they had my sister, and then had me. And so seeing my father waking up early, exercising, leading soldiers. Also, my mother was also very hardworking. She was a kindergarten teacher. And so being the quiet kid, it always inspired me to go army, even if it was just for X amount of time. I wanted to get out of my shell and face my fears. So growing up as the quiet kid, I had a fear of heights, a fear of public speaking. I was very insecure. I was skinny. I was just basically everything about me. I just looked like the kid that would be bullied. Like you would just assume I had bad posture and just I wasn't who I am today. And so, yeah, I definitely saw the military as a stepping stone that I needed to get out of my shell and just to grow as a man.
Was it kind of an escape from how home life was growing up?
Definitely. So the structure was there in home life. So waking up, I would see both of my parents up early around 4 or 5 a.m. and they would have coffee, drink water, and then start working out. Like no matter what crazy stuff happened the night before, they were always up and at it. So it never affected their career. So there's a saying, I don't personally have kids, but there's a saying that goes, kids do as they see, not what they're told. So we never really had a good relationship, but what I saw was them up early working out and they'd be the first ones at work or the first ones in formation and they would lead by example. So I just like emulated that part. The other parts I was like, I don't want to continue that, but I will definitely take these traits.
Which is, something that's really interesting is that you worked in the army for a lot of your life, and then you kind of turned into a life coach, and then you've turned into as a keynote speaker. What what was the exact moment that you had where you thought, you know what, I think I want to be a life coach as a career?
Great question. So in the army, you're working a lot with physical fitness with a lot of your soldiers. So that way they get the best scores on their PT tests, their physical training tests, and just you always have to be in top-notch shape for missions, for school, jobs, and so forth. So that inspired me to work with soldiers and then also with athletes. But the more that I did personal training and performance training, I fell in love with how the mind works. And some of my clients, they would continue and do well with their goals, and some would backtrack. And I took it really personal. Not that I was angry at them, but I just took it personal to say, I let him down, I let her down. Because after we worked together, they would lose progress. And I said, I need to learn how to make that flip mentally. So seeing some people struggle weeks or months after we work together inspired me to go deeper into psychology. So seeing that along with learning a lot of patterns in my family by being the quiet kid. So if you or any of your listeners relate to just being the quiet kid and always people watching, and you're just used to getting stuff thrown at you or beat at home and stuff, you're really good at reading the room. And so I think that that was my gift from that upbringing, was I could read the room and know a lot about psychology. Before I even like studied it, I was just super hyper aware and paranoid. So that helped me with the military. And once I learned a lot about psychology and the responses to stress and trauma, I wanted to help people with that so they could break those patterns to not continue.
Do you remember your first coaching experience that you had, kind of break through what it was like doing it for the first time?
Yeah, for sure. So I remember clear as day that this was my first session that a client started to cry. And my intent like was not to make him cry. And I just paused for a moment. And internally I was like, I hope I didn't trigger anything. And then I pause and say, you know what? He's just opening up about a topic he hasn't discussed with anyone. And I found it very invigorating and inspiring once I saw his body language shift. And I said, wow, I think that this is the first time that he's verbalized this situation. And so we unpacked that. And then by the end of that session, we focused on a game plan to overcome this thing. And he was open to it. And just seeing the light in his eye, just seeing the clarity where he's like, wow, this is why I responded to my ex or my father this way. And it trickled into career and it trickled into other areas of life. So seeing him have his quote unquote wheels turning or have the light bulb moments was really inspiring because he could speak about it moving forward without being totally emotional about it. So it's very powerful. And so seeing somebody's body language go from holding it in, years of suppressing, years of masking, years of ignoring it, to speaking about it, you could just see the weight coming off of them just by the conversation. And so that gave me a rush to say, wow, there's a lot of men and women who've just been holding stuff in or neglecting it or pushing it off, and it's affecting every area of their life. So moments like that, I say, you know what? Just from a personal standpoint, my goal is not to make everybody cry, but I noticed that when somebody does, there's a shift that happened because they allow themselves to be vulnerable. And that takes more power than anything.
And now you've had so many people come in. You've done over 500 individuals you've coached. You've also worked with numerous and multiple organizations. Did you expect to have so many interactions with people in this career? Did you expect this to be kind of a term job for you?
Great question. Honestly, at first, I just thought I was going to be a fitness trainer and performance trainer. Like I had a vision of training athletes at colleges and helping people go from college to pro. But the more I learned about the mind and trauma, I fell in love with that portion. So I still help clients with their physical health. But what inspires me the most is when I get the text of, hey, man, it's been 2 weeks since I haven't had vapor, alcohol, or a cigarette. Or this is the first week that I haven't had a nightmare. Or let's say she hasn't been on a date in 4 years and she went on a first date and overcame some crippling social anxiety. So those personal texts or messages that I get, those inspire me more than like the body transformation. I have a lot of body transformation clients, which is awesome. It's motivating, but when somebody overcomes personal things, that to me just gives me a rush more than just the physical or gym accomplishments.
Have there been clients that you've had that have just been really, it's been challenging trying to help them, say that they were maybe wanting to have better physique and it's been kind of a pain to kind of push them to, get into the gym workout, get that dream body that they want, or something similar like they are trying to quit vaping and they're just it's such a hard time. Have you ever had clients that it's been too difficult to try to coach them?
Yeah, for sure. And the number one thing, I don't give up on anybody, but I can't, as the saying goes, you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. So I like to say that my teenage version wanted to be like, you're going to drink this motivation and you're going to change your life because I see your potential. But my mature version was like, you know what? Let me not try to force it. Let me approach it differently. So meeting and working with clients like that, I appreciate them and our experiences because they made me way better as a coach. And what I mean by that is if everybody just did what we laid out and took action, that'd be great, but I wouldn't have all the extra skills that I have. And now I meet people where they're at and then I can pinpoint what kind of coaching style they need. So, example, some they need the in your pocket, in your face drill sergeant. They're like, hey, I need a wake up call. I need you to cuss me out and call me a bitch if I'm slacking, like whatever it is. Some people they need that and they appreciate that. Others are like, hey, I'm going through this. I just need some support. And so I communicate with them totally different. But the most important thing is I meet them where they're at and then I build them up. So based on the person.
I think that shows a lot of professionalism on your part because most coaches, or some, I shouldn't say most, some I think would have just said, you know what, there's no help, there's no point, and they would have said, okay, I've given up on this. I'm not going to go forth with it. I think for you to not give up on them, it shows a lot of people that you really do care and that it's really, I see it as really professional and really mature because some coaches could say, find someone else. I'm not going to do it no more. I can't. You're not listening to anything I say. So I give you so much props for that. And I know that the people that you don't give up on really appreciate it as well because some would have just tossed them out and said, no, I'm not doing it no more. And then they would
Yeah,
be stuck because then they'd lose motivation to go somewhere else because they might have that feeling of, well, what if the next person does the same thing I just went through? So
for sure.
it's, I see a lot of professionalism in there. Um, what's kind of been a huge inspiration for you of wanting to continue this path? You had mentioned that your clients, when they send the messages, it helps really motivates and inspires you. What's some other things before you became a life coach? What motivated and inspired you when you were in the army?
Great question. So the big thing was for myself is overcoming my fears. So example one would be I used to have a crazy fear of heights. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start with roller coasters at Disney because I'm originally from Pensacola, Florida. So I've lived throughout Florida most of my life. And so after childhood, after Germany, we moved to Florida. And so I was like, all right, let me face heights with theme parks. And then after that, once I got in the army, you do the obstacle courses and there's no safety guard. You're just walking across these posts, you climb up this wall, and you don't have any safety harnesses in all training events. Some of them you do, but there's a lot where if you fall between the logs, you're falling 50 to 100 feet, you're going to break a bone. So just having that rush to say, I have one mission, which is to get across these logs or through this little jungle gym apparatus without falling. And so once I did that and I knew that all eyes were on me, I just ran off adrenaline. Doesn't mean that I wasn't nervous, but afterwards
Mhm.
I was like, huh, I didn't necessarily overcome it instantly, the fear of heights, but I said, when I get laser focused and I say I'm going to do something, I get it done, no matter what feelings are there. So that gave me a rush where I was like, yes, the fear was there. Yes, I almost pissed myself, but I still made it happen. And the same thing when it came to air assault school. And that's essentially when you rappel out of a helicopter. And with that one, I was really nervous because I mean, growing up, I was watching Final Destination. So like right before it was my turn, all these thoughts were coming up, and I was like, oh shit. so so in that moment, I got laser focused again. And it's essentially like an athlete who runs on the basketball court and something clicks, or a
Mhm.
musician. As soon as the stage opens and the lights come on, their alter ego takes over. And so that experience, I noticed, I said, it's go time and something would click. And that would be the best analogy or example that I could use. And so rappelling out of that and coming down safely and then guiding other people would give me that rush where I was like, all right, they have no clue that I was scared. But when they're coming down, I'm going to guide them off of the tower, off of the rope. And so it was a double win for me. I did it personally, but I also loved helping others who were even more scared than I was. And they had no clue I was scared because I wouldn't show it. But internally, I was like, fuck. Like, I don't want to die or break a bone. But in the end, I didn't have any injuries, knock on wood.
Yeah, I went through kind of a similar thing. I kind of get over my fear. I was a huge phobia of roller coasters. I couldn't get on them. I could get on roller coasters if they didn't go upside down. That was the main thing I couldn't do. And we went to, I think this was, I think about 9 or 10 years ago, we went to so about a decade. We went to Six Flags over Georgia because I live in Alabama, so we it wasn't that far of a drive to Atlanta. So we went there for a school, kind of a fun day because it was kind of a reward I got, and I, I had never been on roller coasters before, and I thought, no, I don't think I can. And then I thought, which my mom went with me, and she said, "This one doesn't go upside down, I promise." And I said, "Okay." Whole time I was on that ride, I was like deer in headlights.
Yeah.
And then the group that we were with that were from my grade, they wanted me to go on a roller coaster where they're standing up. And I said, are you done? I thought, I'm not standing up. No, I can't. Because it was standing up and you go in a circle. I said, no, I can't do it. And then
Yeah.
they wanted me to get on Superman. And I thought, oh, you've lost your damn mind. And
Oh
I
yeah.
said,
Superman's wild.
I can't. Mm-mm. Well, a few years went by, and actually, when I went to Auburn, I met some girls that were in kind of a science class I took. We kind of all became best friends and good friends, and we went to Six Flags for fall break. And they got me to get on Superman. I don't know what they meant. I think I was just at that point. I had well before then got on a roller coaster, and I said, "Now this one doesn't go upside down, right?" And we're sitting about to take off, and they're like, "Yeah, it goes upside down." I said, and then right when she said that we went off, I said, "Oh Lord." I thought I'm gonna die today. I thought, oh, so going upside down wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So I kind
Yeah.
of got my fear a little bit over that. So I was like, okay, I was a little mad that y'all didn't tell me this beforehand, but it wasn't bad. But then on Superman, I couldn't do it. I got in there and I rode the ride, but I was like this the whole time. I had my eyes closed the whole time, and my friend beside me was trying to talk to me. I said, "Don't talk to me." I said, don't talk." And
Yeah.
then I felt like sick after I got off the ride too. That's how bad it was. I said, "No, don't, no one talk to me. I need to go to the car. I don't get."
Yeah.
No. So Superman was a fail, but I kind of got over my fear of going upside down on a roller coaster. So
Awesome.
there
I
was
li-
one ride though that went into like a circle and it rocks you back and forth, and then it was like Final Destination when you're sitting up at the top and you're dangling. I said, "Oh no!"
yeah, you're just waiting.
And
You're like, please let us drop. Please just let us continue.
I told them, I said, no, I can't do the dangling upside down. I can't. I thought, oh, no, this is happening to me. I said, you see this on TV and movies all the time. And I thought, oh my God, it's happening to me. It just stood there for a second, but that second I was like, oh no. I was like, oh, I'm gonna die. This is it
Yeah.
for me. But I told them after that, I said, no, I'm not getting on it again. No. I said
Yeah.
that I'm not getting on it after that either. Um, what does the future kind of look for you? It seems like you kind of have done everything from being in the army, you've been a life coach and key as a speaker. Have there been any more bucket list goals that you would like to achieve, or do you feel like you've achieved everything so far?
I definitely have a lot of goals still left. And every time that I accomplish a small or big goal, whatever it is, I always get excited to create more and be hyper specific. I'd say to have 2 to 3 day workshops where, let's say it's men and women, we come together, we meet at a specific hotel in a location. Day one is more like a powwow. Everybody meets each other to get comfortable. Excuse me. And then that night, we more so just have an open Q&A, open discussion. It's really chill, laid back. The first morning, we go on a hike, or if we're in Florida, obviously we don't have mountains. So in Florida, we would like go on a long beach trail or go on a trail in the woods, something like that. But if it's in the north and in the mountains, we go hiking. Once we get to the top of the mountain or the hill, that's when we do a combination of trauma release, breath work, and so forth, just natural holistic modalities. And then on the way down, the camaraderie gets stronger because on the way up in the military, we say embrace the suck, meaning it sucked to climb up there or to get all the way up, and people are about to quit, give up, they need water, and then everybody's helping each other. So by the time you get to the top, you trust each other way more because we all made it up there. And so that moment and those feelings can't be replicated. So on the way down, everybody's getting connected with whoever's walking next to them. And so that night we would have more so a cookout. And then the next day that same day is when we would have a function or a workshop in the banquet room of a hotel. So about 3 to 5 hours and focus on specific topics when it came to overcoming trauma, when it came to productivity, different topics. And then on the last day, we would have like a cookout slash party, and then everybody can exchange information, get connected. But a good 3 day, I would say Friday to Sunday, and everybody flies out Monday. But for people to meet others that are on the same page, have a lot of personal and professional growth. And then most importantly, they have a database of people that they could always reach out to or potentially collaborate with. So it would not be like an event. I like to call it a pitch fest, where people, it's very common to go to an event to learn something, and they probably learn one thing, and then they realize the speaker is just selling their platinum program, their gold program, or their diamond package, and are like, I came here to learn XYZ, and I can't learn it until I go to the back of the table or run my credit card for X grand to then join their next thing. So I don't want it to be a pitch fest. Everybody's going to get a lot of value from it and get connected with other like-minded people. So I truly believe that that's a big thing that people are missing, is that camaraderie, and also just doing something in nature with strangers and realizing that we're all not so different as we think we are. Because when we're stressed, we feel like nobody understands me, nobody knows me, I don't know if anybody cares. But when we are in the right rooms around the right people, power happens in that. And then we can all learn from each other.
One of the questions that you have, and I think it's really important, is mental health nowadays is really severe and it's affecting everyone. From your experience, why do you think people struggle with mental health so much nowadays?
Good question. I would say a huge thing is that it's hard for them to be present in the moment. So they're either thinking about past stress, past trauma, past anxiety and depression, or they're stressed about the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? And then this happens. And so they're creating unnecessary stress of the future of what could go wrong, or they're stressed about the past. So they're either doing this end of the spectrum or that end, which keeps them from being present in the moment. So that's a huge thing, and a very common one that I've noticed is people are rarely present. And another example of that would be somebody's hanging out with somebody on a date, or they're out with friends and they're like, I feel like nobody's really present with me. And then they don't open up because they feel that the people, the group, or the person they're with is just somewhere else. Either they're on an iPad, either they're zoned out because you could tell the person's just thinking about something else, or they're on their phone, or vice versa. And the person's like, wow, why do I open up about these things when people aren't present with me? So we could all feel that. But I think that's a big thing, is that it's hard for people to be present, even just with themselves. They're stressed about the future or they're stressed about the past.
When it comes to friendships and relationships, what advice do you normally give to people?
I would recommend that they really aim to be the best listener that that person knows. Because sometimes people think, I want to be the best friend for everyone, which sounds great, but the person that makes a bigger impact in their life is honestly the best listener. Because some people, they give good advice, they give tips, they might lend somebody something, they might help them and help them. But at the end of the day, the person that they think of the most is who made them feel valued, heard, and understood. Because I truly believe we all have an inner child, and our inner child wants to be heard and understood. So if we can be present with them and actively listen to understand, rather than most people, they just listen to interrupt. And then we think this is why I don't open up about anything. But making them feel heard and understood, it's really rare. And then the person's like, wow, people haven't really allowed me to go deeper on my passion or their story. And it really excites them because maybe it's been a while, or if ever, that they've opened up about those topics, because usually people don't care or they're not present. So being an active listener, and that's the basis of communication rather than just speaking. Listening comes first.
If you could go back to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
I would definitely let him know that everything in life is happening for you, and it's your job to figure out what that reason is and what that gift is. Because I do understand that we can be confused, we can be lost, we can be in darkness, but in that moment, we're just heightening the emotion or the feeling of what we don't want to feel, but just pausing to look at the perspective to say, what is this teaching me? And how will this be part of my comeback story? Whether that's abusive parents, whether somebody has a heartbreak, whether somebody was bullied or they got embarrassed or they got fired and laid off and they're just feeling lost and they don't know what path to take. Just looking at the perspective, what is this teaching me? And how will this be part of my comeback story? And then they start to see an exciting viewpoint because they realize that every show, movie, and book always has some type of comeback story. And that's why we relate to one of the characters. Like we thought he was going to pass away. We thought this person's going to get their heart broken, or maybe they did and they came back and won, or they came back and conquered. And we just get inspired by that. So by seeing others do it, we have to look at ourselves and say, what is part of my comeback story presently and from the past? And how can I keep winning? So that way we make a strong decision to say, I'm no longer going to be a victim. I'm going to come out victorious.
I know you had mentioned earlier that you didn't really, your parents kind of had kind of a difficult relationship with them. Later in life, were you able to kind of rebuild that friendship or relationship with them?
I would say it's 50-50, more so because sometimes an individual goes a different path in life than family wanted them to. And that's not necessarily right or wrong, but I would recommend any of your listeners who are getting a lot of advice from families to go this route, the safe route, or any route that they recommend, and just pausing and saying, if I go that route, am I doing this because of external pressure or external validation? Or is this truly the route that I want to take? Because it's so common for people to pursue school, a career, or a relationship that at the end of the day, they really didn't even want. They just wanted to make mom, dad, grandma, somebody else proud. And then they look up, they're like, I hate my job. I hate the school. I don't like my coworkers, but mom is happy that this award or this certification or whatever is on the wall. And she can be like, oh, my daughter, my boy is doing this. It's like, that's great. But at the end of the day, our happiness has to override just making others proud. Now, I'm not saying it for anybody to just cut off all their family, but we really got to take it with a grain of salt and just pause to say, am I pursuing this because this is what I want? Or am I changing paths because I'm scared because I listen to too many external opinions? So I would say it's 50-50 because there's some paths in life that I took that they're like, oh, we wish you would have stayed military. But my last couple of years, I was not happy. It was not fulfilling me. The only thing that I truly feel fulfills people is helping and empowering others.
Do you think your parents are proud of how your life has turned out? Are they happy about kind of the decision and path that you've gone down towards?
Yeah, I definitely do believe so because of the positive impact of changing lives and just building a strong community. And also, not to necessarily throw it in their face or anything, but some of their old friends became my clients, and I helped them to stop drinking, to stop other vices, to help them with their physical and mental health. And more so to show like I don't just work with people that are around our age group, but there's also people 50 plus, 70 plus that have gotten a lot of positive benefits as well. So I do think they are, but I just always focus on the bigger picture of creating a positive ripple effect to change lives in a good way.
What would you like to be most remembered as from clients and for future reference? What would you like your clients to remember you for?
That either one conversation, one message, one coaching interaction, there was one pivotal moment that stood out and something shifted within them. And so, them just knowing that together, our relationship, our conversation, or even just a message did something and planted a seed that made them want to become better and see their potential. Because I know what it feels like to not believe in yourself, to lose faith, to not have anybody that cares or supports. So, knowing that they knew that somebody was truly in their corner, that means a lot. And they're like, you know what? At the end of the day, everybody else is saying, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. When one person was there to say, no, you deserve better. Stop saying it's not that bad. That is an old pattern. You know what you want to do. Let's get to that. And then when they pause and really evolve, they're like, wow, he or there may be somebody else that also had that impact in their life. But that's a huge thing that I want to do and leave that legacy to make that impact where that one moment made something shift where they really believe themselves again.
If people that are listening to today's show, in this episode, if they would like to reach out to you and have questions and ask you for some advice on life, or if you would like to give them recommendations for anything, where can they best find you? And feel free to plug anything that you have going on.
For sure. They can find me on social media at Fit with Derek 2, the number 2. If they just search Fit with Derek, it's the same profile picture on every app. It'll pop up. And on there, they could just message me on Instagram or any other app. And then besides that, my first self-help book just came out August 1st. It's titled Mission Ready: Prepare Your Mind and Body for the Battlefield of Life. And it's gotten a lot of positive, great, powerful feedback. And the whole intent is every chapter teaches them proven action steps they could use, whether it's on physical health, overcoming traumas, faith, whatever the topics are. So they could just use it as a toolkit. And so if they need help, they can message or just follow the content. And if they like personal development books, I highly recommend Mission Ready. It's available on Amazon.
I will put all of his links down in the description box below. He does have a link tree that has all this information all in one location. I will put that down there, as well as his social media are listed on the link tree, but I will also put off his socials down in the description box for you as well. So it's all in one place and easy access for you guys. Derick, thank you so much for coming on. This is such a huge, impactful story, and I think that what you do helps so many people more than you might think. I know that it's a lot of people are so blessed and so appreciative to have you as a coach. And yeah, I can see you're really passionate about it. And that's something that we all need more of today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Noah.
And as always, if you would like to follow me on social media as well, y'all can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And as always, listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcasts from. It's available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora, as well as other platforms. So feel free to follow it so that you'll get notified of when new episodes come out. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today's episode. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Y'all be safe out there, make good decisions, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.